Hi, I am Scott Herbst, founder of Six Flex Training and Consulting, and you are watching or listening to The Flex. This is a show where we have conversations with people who are expressing leadership with the intention that it open access to you expressing yours. Excited to be here today with Kassy Coleman. Kassy's got a couple of different roles. Kassy is the Director of Operations and Clinical Services at Rising Above ABA. They provide center-based and in-home-based AB, applied behavior analysis services to kids with autism in the greater Boston area, and they are expanding. And in addition, Kassy is also the founder of Empower Edge Consulting, and they do exactly what the name says. They empower board-certified behavior analysts in finding and then expressing their purpose and their values and what they really care about. So it's alive and expressed in their work. As usual, I am going to keep the introduction there, let you hear Kassy's story from Kassy. Kassy, welcome.
Hi, Scott. Thank you. Appreciate the introduction.
My pleasure. Now, where I start every episode is in the same place with the question, starting wherever you see is relevant, what you would say is important. Will you share your journey to leadership with us?
Yeah, of course. I think my story is a lot like many other BCBAs who were put into a director position before we really knew what we were doing or what we were getting ourselves into. I was put into a clinical manager position after having my certification for maybe a year. Of course,
Okay.
super excited. Thought it was awesome. Somebody thought I could be in charge of people. I'll just, move my science and generalize it over to other BCBAs and grad students, and it will be great. It'll be fun, they said. So I went with that and slowly moved into a director role and was just figuring things out as I went. And as I continued to build on my director position and change companies and learn new things, I realized that I had no idea what I was doing.
Uh-huh.
Um, that
How long did
I
that
made
take?
oh, I'd say years, like 3, 4 years maybe, before I was
Uh-huh.
like, wow, I was just making stuff up and hoping for the
What
best.
what clued you into that? I'm curious.
I think the amount of times that I just was giving answers and was like, what did I even just say? And did that even make sense?
Mm.
And I finally got some BCBAs that were as seasoned as me who would ask me questions and I would have no idea what the answer was or no idea what direction to take it in. And I was just constantly overwhelmed and
Mm.
felt like, like that duck analogy where it's like calm on the surface, but under the water, you're like paddling as fast as you can.
Totally. Yeah.
That was pretty much my life for the first, few years in the field. Um, but yeah, then I realized I didn't know what I was doing, and I realized I had made a scope change and nobody had my back. Like nobody, I wasn't reading research on how to lead BCBAs or how to deal with that mom who's in crisis because she just found out her kid was diagnosed with autism and she's mad at her BCBA. And I had no idea how to handle those things. And I was just kind of put in a spot to do it.
Yeah.
Eventually, I mean, 10 years in the field went by and I learned enough that I was, I helped people pass the exam and I'm somebody who thinks outside the box and I learn on my toes. So I managed. But I actually went to an ACT conference in the beginning of 2024 and I got to really analyze like my personal values and what it was that I was getting out of the position that made me happy.
Yeah.
And everything changed from there.
Yeah. Talk
I
about that. So ACT, for anyone who's
mhm,
unfamiliar, is acceptance and commitment therapy or training, right?
mhm, yes.
Um, and so would you talk a little bit about that and what you saw in the workshop and or the conference you said? And
Well, I thought it was a conference, but it ended up being more like a therapy session.
uh-huh.
I went thinking I was going to learn about parent training because, I started in the field in 2008, got my certification in 2013. Parent training was an afterthought at that point. Like it was not as big of a focus as it is now. It was
Yeah.
kind of like, if you can get them to do it, great, but it is what it is. So I went expecting to learn how to use ACT to help families connect with the services that their kids were getting. And I thought
Mhm.
I'd walk out of there and, be able to use ACT and get all these parents on board. And
Have some tools in your toolbox.
yeah, it'll be great. And I got to go to Vegas. Who doesn't like going to Vegas? And this will be wonderful. In the first day, we had to put name tags on ourselves with like the worst things we've ever thought about ourselves.
Hmm.
And as soon as that started, I was like, this is going to be something completely different.
Yeah.
And I noticed that none of my name tags had anything to do with work. They all had to do with like my kids and family and having time with them, being present with them.
Mm.
And I realized those were negative to me because I didn't find the space for them while I was doing what I've been doing. I
Got
was
it. So
so,
it was like bad parent or
yes,
yeah,
yeah, bad
okay.
mom, like not, not present with my kids, missing out
Neglectful.
on things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Asleep at the steering wheel of life essentially was kind of like the summary that I came up with. And
Yeah.
I realized this happened because I was pouring every ounce of me into being a good leader
Yeah.
without having any idea how to be a good leader.
Yep.
So even when I wasn't actively participating in some type of leadership meeting or at work, I was thinking about how can I be better? Am I doing good enough? Why are people listening to me? The imposter syndrome, the negative comments, and
Yeah.
everything else that was more important to me took a complete backseat.
Awesome. I mean, not awesome, but
Right.
well, let me say this. I think I really appreciate you sharing this, is what I mean to say.
Hmm.
Because I
Hmm.
think this is something that a lot of people deal with. I can tell you that my first job as a professor, it didn't take me 3 years to realize I had no idea what I was doing. Luckily, it took like 2 months because I
Hmm.
got some really like direct, they had some mechanisms built in to give me feedback that was
Right.
like, whoa,
Hmm.
but that imposter, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't really belong here. How do I look competent while meanwhile
Hmm.
scrambling to look competent? Uh,
Right.
you know, I can relate to this, so I appreciate you sharing that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, weekends were spent, trying to turn my brain off so I could catch up with myself instead of being
Mm.
present with my kids. And, you know, my middle daughter and I love going to like new restaurants or trying new diners. And I missed all of that stuff because I was just so exhausted from
Mm.
keeping up this facade while still not really knowing what I was doing.
Yeah.
And all of the companies that I've worked for, I mostly was in startups, which is probably why I didn't know. Like, I didn't know what I didn't know because the people running the startups were also figuring out what they were doing at the same time. So there was no accountability partner to be like, hey, we've tried this
Sure.
before and it doesn't work. Um, but there's never any type of training in place for a BCBA looking to make a change to be a director. Like we're kind of like, the science, you'll be good. Best of luck.
Hmm.
And I have yet to find a company that has like a behavior skills model or a competency-based training to help us feel good about what we're doing as leaders.
Yeah.
And I also find a lot of leaders have trouble saying that they're not good leaders.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, I mean, I have opinions about why that is. Do you have a sense why that is?
Yeah, it's terrifying.
I mean, that's yeah. I mean, that's the answer. It's like once I realized, going back to me, right?
Hmm.
Um, that whoa, I thought I was doing pretty good here, and I'm not really doing a great job as a professor.
Hmm.
There was then what immediately was there was, oh my God, I can't let anyone find like exactly the same thing.
Hmm.
Like it went from like it went from oh my God, people can't know I don't know what I'm talking about to oh my God, they can't know that I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like one more level. Um,
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep interrupting. Go ahead.
No, no, I love the back and forth. It's great. It's helpful to know you're not the only one out there that's kind of like, wait, what am I doing? Was
Yeah.
that the right decision to make? Or is there something I could have done better to help this employee or this family or this BCBA or just I think as behavior analysts, we always want to do our best and we always want to see the outcomes that we're striving for.
This is awesome. I love this. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds of because what I hear in the background is that you had imposter syndrome
Hmm.
and there was this event that really brought it to light
Hmm.
of taking a look at your values.
Hmm.
And my commitment is that this be not just relatable but useful for people.
Hmm.
So let's look at that a little bit. What I'm hearing, and correct me if your experience differs, but you did an exercise where, having this experience and probably your experience, well, this is how leadership is. You're like kind of all the time, like,
Hmm.
got to stay a step ahead and whatever, right? Um, and then you do this exercise that is like, whoa, there's something else besides this is just how leadership is. This
Hmm.
is, I'm not actually focused on my values and
Hmm.
what I really care about. And I've given all my energy to looking like I know what I'm doing. And while I'm giving all my energy to looking like I know what I'm doing, I'm missing out on being present
Everything.
with my kids and the
Yeah.
stuff that, like, when you really ask me what's important to you, that stuff I write down, right?
Hmm.
So it sounds like um, doing a values clarification, and I'm going to call that what it was, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Although that's a really interesting value because I know something about ACT, know something, right?
Hmm.
And that's the first time I've heard an exercise where you kind of share that background stuff of like, I'm not a good parent. I'm not
Hmm.
um as a values exercise, right?
Hmm.
Um, do you have any comment or insight about that? About how
I
you
feel
got from that to values?
Yeah, so that first day was a lot of like n negative things that they were just like having you get out there. Like
Mm-hmm.
there was like we had to like I didn't opt to do this part of the exercise, but like they had people like walk down a line and everyone was kind of saying things you would not want other people to say about you like
Okay.
you're not successful or you're not athletic or you're unattractive or we like it was like bullying people. It
Yeah.
was it was insane. But I feel like they did that so like there was nothing left to be surprised by. So
Mm.
like it pulled us into like our most vulnerable state with these complete strangers.
Yeah.
I mean, it was there had to be at least 75 people there. Like
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a small group of people. And I feel like by making us vulnerable to that, we were able to really think about what was important to us. Because if you go to a conference and they say, "Well, tell me something great that you're doing," you're gonna be like, "Oh, well, I'm a good leader. Like I do supervision and I do parent training and all of my mentees have passed their exam and it's very surface level." And I
Yeah.
think by making us vulnerable, they got underneath that part of it, of what makes us proud to be leaders or proud to be mentors.
Mm. So it sounds like, and again, this is towards giving people something to take away.
Hmm.
Something anyone could do is find someone you trust
Hmm.
and start sharing and opening about the concerns that you have about how people might or could see you,
Hmm.
or how you really don't want to be seen,
Right.
right? Um,
Hmm.
and that might be a good place to start an exploration of, okay, uh, that being there, what do I really care about?
Hmm. Right. And in
Okay.
thinking about those things, what do they lead back to of your values? So if when I put, you
Hmm.
know, a not present mom, I think is what I actually wrote. I could then think about that and be like, so what a part of that do I want to change? And what part of that is important to me?
Yes. Like, why did that come
So
up here?
Right. So
Yeah.
that was kind of how I switched goals there and realized my over analyzing every step I took as a leader was taking away one of the most valuable things I could ever have.
Yes. So now I'm curious, how does that realization, oh, I'm really focused on being a good leader or looking like a good leader,
Right.
taking away from what I really care about being a parent, a partner, et cetera, family.
Mhm.
Uh, how does that then iterate back and influence your leadership?
Mhm. So I realized that everything I learned about leadership was from watching other people who I thought were successful leaders.
Mm,
And a lot of that meant putting their family second or staying late at the office, being the first one in, like, all the surface level things. And that's
yes.
kind of what I followed and was like, well, I didn't take my full maternity leave with my youngest because I was like, if I just get back, it will look like I'm, the best and I'm the hardest worker and it will be
Yeah.
all this. And I realized that as a leader, I didn't want to do that to people. I
Mm,
wanted them to understand that you can be successful in whatever it is you're passionate about and still hold on to your values.
I love that. Keep going.
So, one of the first things I did was I started to take more vacation days. Like,
Uh-huh.
rather than letting my vacation days like add up and feel guilty about it, like I would prep my team and say, "Hey, I'm going to take Friday and Monday off and I'm going to be completely offline." And it took them a little while to adjust to that because I was never completely offline. But what I
Hmm.
started to see is more of them started to take their mental health day or their sick day or not feel guilty about their kid being sick. Because I'm like, no, yes, go snuggle and watch a movie today. We can do the treatment plan tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
so I started to bring my own values in to teach the people I was leading. It your your work is not everything. It
Hmm.
should be important and it should be valued, but it's not everything.
Yeah.
And when I started in Power Edge, I went to some of my supervisees, one that I'm actually very good friends with still, one I hadn't worked with in years, and an administrative staff that I currently work with. And I said, I want you to be brutally honest, and I want you to tell me what it is about my leadership style that you find different than other leaders that you've had, good, bad, ugly, whatever it would be. And they all wrote that I made them feel seen and that I
Hmm.
helped them identify their passion, their value, and I built a pathway for them to have those things. And one of the BCBAs said, "You held my baby for me so that I could have a parent meeting without needing to bring them to the daycare or the babysitter. Like these are the things that make you a good leader, is being a person."
Well, talk about that. I love that. So you had you made
Hmm.
me feel seen, right?
Hmm.
You helped me identify what I really care about and then
Hmm.
build the pathway towards that.
Hmm.
I love that. Can you talk about that in practice?
Sure, yeah. So the two BCBAs that I interviewed, one that I'm still close with, she always liked the way that I like led mentoring meetings and stuff. I was a very applied mentor. Like if you quizzed me on Cooper definitions, I probably wouldn't pass. But if you had me apply them to the field, like I'm a very out of
Mhm.
the box thinker, and she really appreciated that. And she's a quieter person and um wasn't really sure what direction she wanted to go in. She knows she didn't want to always be a direct BCBA, but wasn't really sure where her niche was. And then we figured out that she really enjoyed teaching mentees and she wanted to do it the way that I had done it for her because I helped her pass the exam. So I no longer work for the company she's with now. But in the time that I was leading her, even after a BCBA, I would pull her into these meetings or ask her what her thoughts were on something or just kind of give her that empowerment of being not having the imposter syndrome by just getting her insight and collaboration. And that way she could slowly get comfortable. And now she's running the like mentoring program for that company. And
Awesome.
that just like makes me so happy that now she's doing that and she loves it and it's great for her.
I love that. Um, I can really hear that uh, well, if leadership is about people growing, develop, and what you said is opening up pathways to what they care about,
Hmm.
the leadership there, right?
Yeah.
Like helping
Hmm.
people identify, well, what is it that they care about? And then
Hmm.
moving towards that. Um, so that was one. You want to share about the other one?
Sure, yeah. So the other one, I left an agency for a longer story than we have now. And she was a very strong BCBA, newer, um, but could take feedback well and kind of was always right there for me to collaborate with, and she knew a lot of the inner working. So I mentioned to the leadership team that I was leaving that she would be a good candidate for the clinical director position. Um, and she did take that and she was successful at it for years. We kind of lost touch, so I didn't know that part of her. But when she left that company and she started working for a school, she kind of came back to me and was just like, "I'm sorry we lost touch. I just want to thank you for everything you've done." Like now she has 3 kids and she's present with her kids, and it's just like those little pieces that you leave behind, I think, that are really what make you feel fulfilled in the position of leadership. It's not putting out a fire or, finding a good RBT to hire. It's your long-term effects on people's lives.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. I can really hear of the modeling of one connecting with what you
Hmm.
care about. It sounds like you haven't said this specifically, but I'm wondering if you model that vulnerability
Hmm.
and openness. You said that you realized you were emulating the leaders you'd seen. Just this is what leaders do. You get there first. You work. You answer emails at
Hmm.
2 in the morning, whatever.
Hmm.
And so you stopped modeling that piece. Like, no, I'm
Hmm.
actually going to model taking time to care for yourself, taking
Hmm.
time to recharge your batteries, taking time to really authentically, no kidding, disconnect.
Hmm.
I wondered if you modeled that other piece and if you could talk about it, like, how do you guide people towards connecting with what really lights them up and what matters to them?
Hmm. So, I've been in situations with directors who don't want to have caseloads anymore. Like that seems to be like one of the top things. When people get put into a director position, they're like, well, I don't really want to build direct ABA anymore. And it's like, well, you got into this field because you wanted to help others in some capacity, whether it was the families affected by autism or if you're going into criminal justice, whatever area of our field
Yeah.
you're kind of going into. So I started to ask them, well, what do you want to do instead? Like, what makes you light up inside? And one of my directors once said, well, I like being able to put things in place and then see the BCBAs grow from it. And I
Mm.
was like, okay, how are we going to measure that? And I just kind of helped her. I said, when you go on the floor and you supervise your BCBA's clients to see how well they're doing, are you thinking about the fact that, oh, I'm sitting here and working direct with a kid and I wish I was doing something bigger and better or however your brain works? Or are you thinking about the fact that, wow, look at this error correction procedure that my BCBA put in place. Look how great it's doing. Look how I modeled this for them. And by breaking it down that way for her and kind of just changing her frame of reference, she was like, oh, wow, that sounds way more like what I want to be doing. So I
Yeah.
didn't really change anything about what she was actually doing. I just switched how she was thinking about it and the data that she was collecting to go along with it.
It sounds like the shift is from something vague and kind of abstract
Hmm.
to, okay, but now what does that look like?
Hmm.
What does that look like? And
Yeah.
well, correct me. It sounds like I don't quite have it.
I mean, it would be hard, I think, to write down exactly how to do it. I think you have to make that connection with people and see like most people aren't avoiding a task just because they want to avoid it. They're avoiding a task because it doesn't make them feel good.
Yeah.
So we need to find out why that doesn't make them feel good and how we can adapt it so it doesn't put their light out, which sounds kind of corny, but like it's the best way to put it, I think. Because you can't just not do it. You can't just not do scheduling if you're running a center. Like scheduling might be your least favorite thing, but you still have to do it. So how can we frame it and look at it where it's going to hit on your values of I care a lot about my RBTs and I know their paychecks are important. So I'm going to sit down and do scheduling and make sure they get as many hours as they need to pay for their rent. Like if that's how you connect with it, then hold on to that. Find that value and hold it
Mm,
and kind of pour that into everything that you're doing.
okay, got it. So a lot of it is about connecting whatever's going on to, well, what is it that lights me up?
Hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. Um, Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh, where I'd love to hear more about now. So, you learned a lot from years of leadership, what you thought it looked like, and
Hmm.
connecting with what's really important. And now, like you've gotten developed some capacity for connecting others with what's important.
Yeah.
Um, do you want to talk about Empower Edge and what you're launching and creating there?
Yeah, that would be great. So, Empower Edge has been an idea I've had probably about 6 months or so after that ACT conference, and I was like, I want to do more. I want to feel more connected. I want to spread more light around. I want to help BCBAs take their next step without losing their passion. Because a
Yeah,
lot of us end up, stuck in KPI roles where it's all about how many hours can we bill and not what is the outcome of these clients.
yeah,
And how can I do that while also giving the BCBAs like the fire to say like, okay, well, these KPIs are important because that's more kids we're going to help. Or that's, a mom or a dad of a new family and we're able to move them into a director role because we grew so much and now they have more time for their kids and kind of pinpointing all of those things. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I've never consulted. Again, why would anybody listen to me? I'm just somebody who kind of stumbled my way through the last 10 years in the field. Um, and then I decided, I'm just gonna go for it. And if it means I just talk to one BCBA every 6 months and give them something to think about, then that's great. That's one more BCBA who is less burnt out and maybe more invested in their movement in the field. So what I would love to do is start to coach BCBAs who want to be directors or who have been thrown in director positions and really build out a curriculum that's almost like a treatment plan for a client, but for this particular director. And I want to capture their values and what's important to them, and then help write out a plan of like, okay, how can we turn this into a leadership scope? And that's kind of like the direction I'm hoping to move in. Um, I recently put out some surveys about scope change and like what BCBAs are expected versus directors are expected. I'm still collecting the information, but the BCBAs when they had to use one word to describe what they were doing, almost all of them put exhausted, tired, or burnt out,
mm,
which was not what I was looking for. I thought I'd get like, like language or learning or all these like positive words, but it just showed me that much more that our field needs help.
yeah, yeah. That's really unfortunate when
Hmm.
you think about the difference that board certified behavior analyst makes. You
Hmm.
know, like parents come to services desperate.
Hmm.
You know, like what is up with my kid who was normal and then all of a sudden
Hmm.
um isn't. And then it's like you've got this one ray of hope and
Hmm.
that's exhausting people.
Yeah.
Um and burning them out is unfortunate. I mean borderline tragic, right?
Yeah.
Uh, um I am curious, you've used this term a couple times, scope change.
Hmm.
Can you talk about that and talk a little bit about the challenges of that? Like what you mean by
Yes.
scope change and the challenges you've seen that go along
So
with
that's definitely like a newer piece for me. I never really thought about the fact that as we're promoted within our field or take on new things or, start talking on podcasts or start talking at conferences or, you know, building out RBT courses, we're constantly expanding our scope, which
that.
basically
Hmm.
means like what our specialties are in the field.
Yeah.
But sometimes we're running to a spot where we're completely changing what we're expected to deliver and what our expertise is part of. And I was lucky enough that when I did move into a clinical manager position, I still had a caseload and parents and all the things I knew I was good at. So I still had that piece and I got to kind of slowly add the director responsibilities. But when I started working for a bigger agency and I had been a director at a startup, and they were like, here's your KPIs and here's your measurement tools and here's this and you need to meet that and don't forget about marketing. And I was like, what are you talking? What are you
Uh-huh.
talking about? I don't know any of that. Luckily, I did go back to school to get another degree in organizational leadership because I was like, I am just way out of my depths here. I have no idea what I'm doing. But I see more and more directors who went to school to be board certified behavior analysts and work with kids with autism who are now in charge of these entire teams or entire regions or entire centers. And they're really running the business side of things.
Yep.
And their contact with clients and families is so small, but there's no training. There's like a PowerPoint presentation that you watch once and they're like, hey, good, got it, go. Like, good luck.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was thinking to myself, BCBAs, we're quick, we're a fickle group sometimes, and we're quick to use that scope change of like, well, I like working with 5-year-olds, so an 8-year-old is out of my scope. And I was
Hmm.
like, well, let's dial that back a little bit. But when you get a promotion, nobody is saying, well, running a marketing campaign is out of my scope. I don't have any idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I've just started to realize that that change from BCBA to clinical director is a scope change. Can you use the science? 100%. But have you ever used the science like this before? Probably not.
Yeah. Do you even see how it applies in this new situation?
Right. So, and even sometimes some of the KPIs I've come across, like how many cases did you open this week? And I'm just like, if I open 3 cases in 1 week, I'll get my bonus. But if I open 1 case per week, I won't get my bonus. So is anyone looking at the data to see how much
If
we're
opening
delaying?
3 cases works, or
Right,
yeah.
right. So it was just kind of like, yeah, we have all these really intelligent people and these compassionate people who want to help, but are we really using the science to better our
Hmm.
field when we get to that level? And I just don't know that we are.
And so that's a challenge is scope change
Hmm.
and probably just being like, whoa, how do I do this?
Hmm.
Um, do you? And if so, how do you guide people through that?
So that's kind of what I'm hoping to move forward in at this point. So now that I'm working for a startup again, they're only 3.5 years old, and I'm kind of putting all the SOPs in place and all the trainings in place. I'm really trying to focus on if I was mentoring a new BCBA, I know what I'm doing. Like I know how I'm walking through the task list, I know what I'm presenting. Can I make up a task list for moving from a BCBA position to a director position?
Hmm.
Can I isolate these are the skills you need to just start to be a director, and then these are the skills you need to be like to be completely without a caseload and be running a center? And can we break that down so that we're supporting each other in this scope change? The same way if I was gonna treat a kid, that had elopement from the home and I've never dealt with elopement, I'm gonna go seek out a BCBA who has that experience and say, great. Can I watch you for 3 months and then can you watch me and can we do all these things and make sure I got it down before I take over? But there's nothing like that for directors. There's nowhere I could turn when I, started being a director of a bigger company and be like, what do I do?
Hmm.
And I think our field is hurting in that way. I think we need mentors throughout our entire path as a BCBA and not just in order to pass the exam.
Yeah. So the aim then is to identify those skills. Okay, what
Mm-hmm.
are the critical skills of moving from BCBA, kind of focused
Mm-hmm.
on your own caseload, to now focused on mentoring and managing a team of BCBAs, along with paying attention to the business objectives, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
and then building a pathway from here to there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
well, and you've done it, so
Yeah, it'd be no problem.
I mean, it's the challenge. It sounds like is that you're up against now is going from okay, I've done this
Mm-hmm.
now. How do I build and coach people so that they're able to do what I did and probably faster, right?
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
with more confidence.
yeah, without all the like, oh my God, my kids are like, my kids' lives are getting by me.
Right. They've been on their iPad for 4 hours. What am I gonna do?
Awesome. We're getting close to the end of the time we set aside.
Okay.
One question I always love to ask people is, what are you proud of?
Wow, that's a harder question than you would think it would be. I'm proud of how far I've come since that conference in 2024. How
Hmm,
much I have grown as a leader, but also really captured my values and how much more present I am with my kids. Like I just think I'm a completely different person.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And
Um,
I'm very proud of the fact that I continue to try to get better, even though
yeah,
I feel pretty confident about where I am right now.
yeah, I appreciate that you're up for ongoing growth and development.
Mm-hmm. You have to be. That's how you get the most
Uh,
out of life.
you don't. And I find people like that to be more fun to be around. So thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then the last question I have is, how can people reach you?
I do have a website, so it's Empower Edge OBM. And I can once we post the podcast, I'll be happy to type it out. You can also find me on LinkedIn under Cassandra Coleman. I'm always happy to touch base. I actually just met with the BCBA for coffee recently. We just chatted at a Starbucks. I love making connections, so any of that would be great.
Awesome. Kassie, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story, really authentically share your story,
Thank you.
and yeah, open up about the challenges of being that duck whose feet are going crazy while you look calm. I think people will find that really, really relatable. Um,
Mhm.
and then creating something that's going to share that with other people. So really appreciate that.
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me, Scott. This was really fun.
My pleasure. And for those of you watching, listening, that wraps this episode up. As always, give us a like, give us a follow, a 5-star review, press all the buttons on the platform that you
Sure.
are listening or watching, and we will see you back here next time on the Flex.
Thank you.
Cool. How was that for you?
That was great. That was fun.